It's hard to believe, but one of the preseason Big 12 title favorites will more than likely be eliminated from Big 12 title contention on Saturday. One of the Big 12 preseason favorites will be eliminated before the month of October really begins. This game on Saturday between number 20 Oklahoma State and number 23 Kansas State is absolutely massive. And we are here to break it down and share our official prediction. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. We're so glad you could join us today. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. Of course, check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home of those exclusive expert picks, some of the best college football and NFL spread picks in the entire country, beating out over 80% of the national handicappers, not just this year, but each of the last 6 years as well. So we want you to go sign up for those. Join our team today. Win big, one of the lowest price in the country, some of the best picks in the country, and a full year-long subscription. Those three things you don't find anywhere else. No other site is offering you that good of a deal. No other site has a track record like we do. We want you to take advantage of it. Win big with us. Again, the link for that down in the description below. So again, I don't think it's premature to say that the loser of this game probably sees the end of their Big 12 title hopes. Oklahoma State and Kansas State both dealt crushing losses this last weekend. Oklahoma State losing at home to Utah, a backup quarterback in Utah, 22-19 in Stillwater. Kansas State losing 38-9 in Provo to BYU. So both these teams already have a conference loss on their resume, a conference loss on their record. We're just now really beginning the bulk of conference play. So the loser of this will drop to 0-2 in conference play. The winner goes to 1-1. But if you're 0-2 before the month of October, it's a lot of ground to make up, and you got to start, praying that the teams ahead of you really start screwing up for you to kind of fight back into that contention. So this game is huge, 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 huge. And we'll start with Oklahoma State. Let's start with Oklahoma State on the offensive side of the ball. My question to them is, where the heck is Ollie Gordon? Where has he been? The nation's leading rusher last year only has 258 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns this season. He has been held to under 50 rushing yards in his last 3 games. Hasn't hit the 100-yard mark since the season opener against South Dakota State. And even that wasn't that impressive of a performance from him. It's not an offensive line problem. The offensive line's only given up 1 sack. They're creating the running lanes. I don't know what the heck is going on with Ollie Gordon, but it has been a travesty to see him struggle this much this year. So I don't expect him to all of a sudden wake up and, have a massive game against Kansas State. If Oklahoma State wants to win this game, they're going to have to once again rely on the arm of Alan Bowman, who's played very well. Over 1,100 yards, 10 touchdowns, just 4 interceptions this season. He's going to have to carry the team just like he has every single game so far this year. That's what Oklahoma State's going to have to do, and that might be the reality they have to face for the entirety of the season. The thing is, he's got weapons. Bowman's got 4 players that already have at least 100 reception yards this year, led by Dazon Stribling, Rashad Owens, guys like that have played really good football so far. But the Kansas State defense, as we know, is very solid, very aggressive, very dangerous, and this game is in Manhattan. They need some sort of balance. If there's ever going to be a game for Gordon to want to wake up or figure something out, this would be the one. You take a look at Kansas State. Their key is to limit mistakes. Look, the Wildcats obviously had a very bad game against BYU, but it was a mixture of, it really wasn't a mixture of it. It was just pure mistakes that cost them the game, right? They had 367 yards on the day. They outgained BYU by 126 yards, but it was the turnovers that killed them. Remember, they were up 6-0 late in the second quarter. Then it was 6-3. Then they had that second half implosion, and really the second quarter implosion. They had a fumble return for a touchdown, an interception that led to a touchdown 2 plays later. Then in the second half, to start it, an interception that led to a touchdown 2 plays later. And then the punt return for a touchdown. But BYU scored 21 points off of offensive mistakes from Kansas State. Kansas State only lost by 29. But, you take those away, it's a, 8-point game? It's a 1-possession game. So Kansas State's just got to find a way to not shoot themselves in the foot. 29-point loss, 28 of them coming off of offensive turnovers / special teams blunders. Avery Johnson, still a great quarterback. 620 yards, 6 touchdowns on the year, has rushed for over 250 yards as well. They've got DJ Giddens, who's rushed for over 400 yards. You've got Dylan Edwards, who has nearly 200 yards. This is a team that averages 240.3 rushing yards per game. The Wildcats' identity is running the football. They want to run. They want to just ram it down your throat. Not many teams have proven they're able to stop that. The million-dollar question is, can Oklahoma State stop it on Saturday? And that's what we're going to talk about next. But first, a quick word from our sponsor. We've got a new sponsor for the show this season, Chris Gates Fitness and his online fitness training camp. Training Camp is a monthly fitness program designed specifically for football fans, and it's like nothing I've ever seen before. With hundreds of different workouts and exclusive content such as the calorie calculator and, my personal favorite, the low-calorie, high-protein tailgating cookbook, Training Camp is a must for any football fan looking to get or stay in shape. With Chris as your coach, you'll get top-notch guidance. He's been coaching people online since 2018, and like all of you watching, he's a die-hard football fan. His clients consistently get results by implementing a flexible approach to diet and exercise. So if you're interested in getting brand new workout programs every month, fitness challenges every month to push you to develop healthy habits, challenges within the Training Camp community like weekly football pick'ems, access to live Q&As where you can get direct, personalized support from Chris with your health and fitness, and the support of a community of people there to encourage you every step of the way, you need to visit chrisgatesfitness.com/Gridiron Expert, the link down in the description below. Learn more, sign up today, and use our promo code GRIDIRON to get your first month for just $10. So can Oklahoma State stop the run? The answer to that would be no. No, the Cowboys cannot. They're allowing 180.3 rushing yards per game. They're giving up over 460 yards per game this season. That's not a good mark. Last year's defense for Oklahoma State was absolutely atrocious. We thought they'd be a little bit better this year. That has not been the case. The Cowboys gave up over 230 rushing yards to Arkansas. Should have lost that game to the Razorbacks. They gave up over 250 rushing yards last week to Utah. Utah ran the ball 51 times and averaged 4.9 yards per carry. They can't stop the run at all. And now they're facing a Kansas State team that's one of the best rushing attacks in the Big 12, in the country, has a dual-threat quarterback, got a great core of running backs behind him. It's a dangerous setup for the Cowboys. Factor in they have to go to Manhattan. It's not looking good for them. So Kansas State can absolutely put up similar numbers to what Arkansas did, to what Utah did. So if you're Oklahoma State, sell out. Force Avery Johnson to win the game through the air. They don't want him to do that. They don't want Avery Johnson to have to throw the ball a lot. If you can force him to do that, your odds of winning increase quite a bit. But Oklahoma State so far has proven they are not able to do that. Kansas State, on the other hand, their defense is actually solid. I think it's somewhat misleading, some of the statistics. They're giving up less than 300 yards per game on the year. They're only giving up 83 rushing yards per game this season. So all the more reason to think that Alan Bowman is really going to have to carry Oklahoma State on Saturday. Kansas State's rushing defense has been phenomenal all year. Ollie Gordon has been non-existent. Those two things don't go well together. Alan Bowman is probably going to have to win it solely by himself. Another factor there. The Wildcats secondary has been up and down. They gave up 342 yards in that narrow victory against Tulane. They gave up 268 passing yards to Arizona in that dominant victory in Manhattan. So really it's one of those things where, again, you wonder which secondary is going to show up, but even if the Wildcats give up a bunch of passing yards, as long as the Cowboys aren't finding the end zone, it doesn't matter. Against Tulane, they gave up, nearly 350 yards, but they came up big. That fumble return for a touchdown late in the fourth quarter, and then the interception in the end zone to seal it. Gave a bunch of yards. They didn't get in the end zone. The defense came through and pulled out the win. They gave a bunch of yards to Arizona. They still held the Wildcats just 7 points on the day. So, again, allow all the yards you want. As long as they're not getting into the end zone, as long as you're forcing mistakes, you're just fine. That's what I'm telling my team if I'm Chris Kleiman at Kansas State. Last week against BYU, the defense only gave up 241 yards to the Cougars. Again, that was simply because BYU had such favorable field position with all their drives, but they kind of a double-edged sword there, right? You look at it a little bit. You had the fumble return for a touchdown from the Cougars. They had a drive that began on Kansas State's 29, a drive that began on Kansas State's 27, the punt return for a touchdown, and a drive that began on Kansas State's 38. All those were scoring drives. BYU only had one drive, and that drive resulted in a field goal that began in their own territory. One drive that actually resulted in something for the Cougars. So Kansas State's defense probably could have kept them in that game if the offense hadn't screwed up. Kansas State maybe could have won that game if the offense just hadn't screwed up. Again, 29 points looks really bad, but when you really break it down, you realize Kansas State, that really wasn't as bad as maybe it looked. Again, won't matter if they can't cut down the turnover. But Kansas State's got a stingy defense that's been a staple of Chris Kleiman since he arrived in Manhattan. I would expect nothing less on Saturday afternoon. So what's going to happen, guys? This is a big game. The loser of this, number one, drops out of the top 25. There's no doubt about that. The loser of this probably sees their Big 12 title and college football playoff hopes go away. Dropping to 0-2 in conference play, that is a very big hole to try to climb out of, especially with so many conference games, so many tough conference games left ahead of you. Definitely concerning for both these programs. But ultimately, guys, I've got to go with Kansas State here. I see a lot of people picking Oklahoma State, and I just don't know why. Their offense right now is one-dimensional. They have struggled mightily against the two decent teams they've played in Arkansas and Utah. Probably, again, should have lost both of those games. Their defense has not been able to stop anybody or anything. And now they're going on the road to an angry Kansas State team that knows that last week against BYU wasn't a fluke by any means. BYU deserves all the credit in the world, but knows they're not going to commit as many stupid mistakes that they did last week. They're at home with their home crowd on their side in Manhattan. Not an easy place to play. Early morning game as well could benefit Kansas State a little bit more than the Cowboys. I like the Wildcats in this game. They will run all over this Oklahoma State defense, and they will win this game by at least a touchdown, if not more. The Wildcats get to 1-1 in conference play, keep their title hopes alive, while Oklahoma State, last year's Big 12 runner-up, surprisingly drops to 0-2 in the Big 12. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home of those exclusive expert picks. Again, some of the best college football and NFL spread picks in the entire country, beating out over 80% of the national handicappers each of the last 6 years. So go check it out. The link for that down in the description below. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.